chicks dig the long ball.
Hey, have you guys seen Mark?
You guys seen Mark?
Three, two, one. Broadcasting tape delayed from Busch Stadium #2, which doesn't exist anymore, in St. Louis, Missouri. The Sports Economy Show is on. I'm Bill. This is James, other side. And we're here to pump you up, baby. Today's show, James, JP, is about steroids and how steroids save baseball. I don't care what any of you people out there in YouTube land, watching somebody on steroids smack a ball around is great. Ain't it?
In the 90s, people were loving it.
That's right, because chicks dig the long ball.
That's it,
yes,
man.
they
That's
do.
it.
That's right. That was the phrase. Who was an Atlanta Braves pitcher that said that?
It was Tommy Maddox and Tom Glavine and Greg Maddox.
Yeah.
And then that's when Maguire came in there and they in the bat cage had the lock there, came in there, was like, anybody seen Mark? Anybody seen Mark? Yeah, that's classic.
That is classic. Yes, right. Because chicks dig the long way. So anyway, so I have some statistics here.
All right.
I can't recall all these dates by memory, but I could go through it. Okay. August 17th, 1994.
Yeah.
I was in the United States Navy. And I stopped by a newspaper. There wasn't a stand. It was just a machine, newspaper machine. One of those things, you put the quarter in, you pull it out. So I'm walking out by the gate, and I look at it, and I just go, oh. What happened that day? Baseball went on strike because they couldn't come to an agreement with owners about money. Always about money. Ken Griffey Jr. was about to break the home run record or get real close to it.
Yeah.
I saw something today where the Expos were like 74 and 40.
Yep. The Montreal Expos.
Montreal Expos.
Who had a few good seasons when they had Gary Carter in the early 80s, but hadn't been good since. And, they were making their run. They had Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah. Now they're the Nationals. So
now they're the Nationals. That's right.
I did not know Pete Rose evidently played for the Expos. I don't even remember that.
I actually do. He was actually good for them too. I think they got to the playoffs with Pete Rose.
Wow. How about that?
So anyway, he played with them before the Phillies.
Okay. So he left Cincinnati and went to the Expos for a couple years.
Yeah, right. And then played for the Phillies. Mm-hmm. Okay. He went back to
All right. This is where we're at. We're on strike. The strike, see, baseball players are the smartest players in the world. They canceled the World Series to get what they wanted. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. We're going to cancel the World Series. You people are going to pay us. Hey, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Because baseball players are getting paid now, aren't they?
They are getting paid now.
They are.
But I don't know if that was the saving grace that got them back to. I think the owners took a stand, and eventually the players came back with their heads, in between their legs.
I don't know. Whatever. Look, they got guaranteed contracts. They have no trade clauses. There's nothing else that they could ask for because they will go on strike and they'll stick to it. Unlike your average NFL player, like, man, I got to get my game check. I got to get back on the field. So
well, the NFL is clearly proven, that they are like, hey, if you don't want to play, we'll just get somebody else.
Yeah. You want to go on strike? We'll get the UFL to come in here and play.
They got the Scabs to play in 1987. I think it was 1987, 88, something like that.
Yeah. All right, we got to move on.
Yeah,
we're not talking about football.
Yeah.
Football is a
midsummer. Where are we at? No football.
Yeah. I tell you what, folks out there, when football season gets here, we'll do every single show about football because it is king. But right now, it's not football season. I don't care who Aaron Rodgers is.
This is not Get Up.
That's right. It's not Get Up. I don't care who Orlando traded for. All right. Anyway, hey, speaking of, we got to do a show about Cooper Flagg because
All right.
he's about to sign with the dumpster fire Dallas Mavericks. Anyway, all right, 1997, July 31st, 1997, Mark Maguire is traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. This is when the home run thing starts. He hit 58 home runs that year. Not outrageous, but that's a lot because the record at that time was 60. So 58 home runs is like, wow.
It was a lot.
Think before that, somebody had hit like 54, 55.
Yeah.
So he hit 58. All right. So people are like, oh, this is a big deal. All right. So the next year, he hit 70 home runs in 1998. And Sammy Sosa hit 66. So people are watching baseball going, look at this, man. They are hitting home runs. You know, the news outlets are covering all this stuff and everything that's going on, you know, about hitting all these home runs.
It was a major news. Major.
Yeah.
It was like on the nightly news.
Network news is covering this stuff.
Right.
It's a big deal.
Right.
So
Dan Rather was talking about it.
Yeah. So baseball after the strike was down here. I mean, it was low.
It was low.
Lower than a glowworm's belly on a subway track, baby. It was low. Nobody cared. And then steroids, but we didn't know what it was. All people knew was like Mark Maguire was just taking supplements. And so is Sammy Sosa. Who cares if, you know, they went from this to this?
Right.
In size.
Nobody cared because they were hitting homers.
They were hitting homers, you know. Sammy Sosa had a cork bat. Nobody cared about that.
Nobody. Remember when he tried to hide it?
Yeah.
The bat shattered and he was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Let me get this barrel off the field. Normally,
That's right.
just let the bat boy grab it. He was like, no, I need to grab this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of that, you don't hear about the torpedo bats anymore.
No. that went away first month of the season.
That was all bogus because the pitcher was just throwing softballs up there to make it look good. Anyway, whatever. All right, so baseball is starting to reach the stratosphere, but rumors of steroids are coming in the late 90s. Okay. And then who comes on the scene in the late 90s? Take it away, JP.
All right. Mr. Barry Bonds literally saw Mark Maguire. Is it Mark Maguire? Mark Maguire. Yeah.
That's his name.
Say Mark Maguire. There's a Mark Maguire played for the Pistons back in the day.
He played basketball back in the 80s.
Mark Maguire, saw Mark Maguire get to 70 home runs, break Babe Ruth's record, and everybody was happy. And Barry Bonds is like, you know what? I'm a Hall of Famer. Mark Maguire wasn't no Hall of Famer. Now he's hitting homers, and everybody thinks he's Jesus. He's like, you know what?
I want to end on that money.
He's like, you know, what did he do to do that? You know what? Whatever he did, I'm going to do it. And so then all of a sudden, Barry Bonds went from, hitting, 25, 30 homers a year. Good player. On the path to be a Hall of Famer. So all of a sudden, he was hitting 50, 60, pushing 70. And then the next thing you know, in 2001, 73.
73 home runs.
73.
And that also doesn't count that they walked him twice a game.
Yeah.
He was getting walked with the bases loaded.
Yeah. And then once he broke the record in the following years, it was like nobody even wanted to pitch to him. He just literally stood at the plate and they pitched around him all the time. And he actually was ridiculous when it came to the home runs. But, here's some things that I wanted to say. So, everybody's like, oh, well, Mark Maguire and Sammy Sosa, the thing was when Mark Maguire was hitting the home runs, there was no real, there was such thing as steroids. And no, you weren't supposed to take steroids. But, he was in his locker room one day and somebody just saw what looked like a pill box, and was like, hey, what's that? And he's just like, oh, it's just some supplements. Well, that's what the players were doing. They were taking oral supplements they were classified as steroids. But at that time, they hadn't did what what they do now, where they test for everything, and it wasn't illegal technically.
Yeah. There was nothing illegal about taking steroids in baseball. Nothing.
Right. So then they hit the homers, and nobody's caring, right? But as soon as Barry Bonds, who, let's be honest, was a professional dick, Barry Bonds was an asshole, right? Everybody hated him. I like Barry Bonds, but he rubbed so many people the wrong way. And then here you are, Babe Ruth. Everybody loves Babe Ruth. Everybody loves Hank Aaron.
Actually,
everybody.
I bet you if you knew Babe Ruth personally, you probably wouldn't have liked him.
Oh, I know.
But they didn't have the media.
Nobody knew who he was in 1990. There weren't too many people would go, that Babe Ruth was a good guy. They didn't know him, right?
They didn't know him.
How much video of Babe Ruth did you see? Did you see Babe Ruth hanging out with the hookers? No, you did. So
you did.
So Barry Bonds was a villain. And so then they were like, oh, this steroids is getting to be out of control. But here's what I'm going to say. As much as they vilified the players that were on steroids at one point, it really did when you go back to the strike. Baseball was at a new low. I mean, like, people were literally saying, I'm not going to watch baseball. I'm not going to watch Major League Baseball anymore. I'll go to, minor league ballparks, right?
Yeah.
I'm not watching professional baseball. But when guys started taking steroids, I don't want to, I'll give you this statistic. In 1993, a total of 4,030 homers were hit. 1993. That marks the first season of the Rockies and the Marlins, right? So all the teams were there. 4,030 homers. In 2000, not even a decade later,
6 years later. 7.
Yeah, 7 years later, 5,700 homers. So you're talking about 1,700 more homers.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
So it was a lot. It was a big difference. And then not only was it a big difference, but it was the star players. Most of them on each team were, even if they weren't busted for steroids, they were kind of associated with it. A-Rod.
Roger Clemens.
Jason Giambi, Jose Canseco, of course. He wore like a badge on his chest.
Mike Piazza, your favorite catcher.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
Palmeiro, Manny Ramirez. But the biggest difference was like you had guys like Brett Boone. And Len Dykstra, who when he was with my Mets in the mid '80s, was a slap hitter. He was a leadoff hitter because he could never hit homers. And then all of a sudden, he was jacking 45, almost 50 homers, and he looked like a damn,
looked like an oak tree stump.
He looked like a character in a troll movie or something. He was so jacked up.
Yeah.
It was just like guys look like, superheroes in the comic books. And nobody cared until Barry Bonds hit the homer, and then all of a sudden you now have a villain.
Well, they cared when Maguire and Sosa were hitting, but they didn't want to talk about it. But then when Barry showed up, then people wanted to start talking about it.
Right. But it did. Let's just say this. If Maguire and Sosa were not, everybody knows what they were doing. If they weren't doing that and they never had that record, what do you think, Bill, would have happened to Major League Baseball?
It would have still been not that popular. Because of what they did to the fans during the strike, it would have took a long time for the regular fans to come back, and hopefully the younger people would have eventually started watching again. But because that happened, it brought all the old fans that were there before the strike straight back. That's what I did.
Yeah, me too.
Because Maguire was on St. Louis. And as soon as he started hitting home runs, I came back. I was like, oh, this is great.
Right.
But your average fan would not have came back
You
if
know,
they hadn't have been on every news outlet every night starting in August.
I am I am a big sports fan. Usually I can recite, the winners in my lifetime. I'm 55. In my lifetime, I can remember. Yeah, I can remember champions going through the seasons because it's part of my life.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I completely forgot that the Atlanta Braves were the team that won the World Series when they came back from the strike. Right?
Yeah.
They beat the Cleveland Indians, who at that time were stacked full of young, great players. Right?
Yeah. Oh, and
but
another
it's
thing,
almost like an afterthought. It's like baseball was not, elevated once that strike happened.
Another thing that helped them tremendously, the New York Yankees three-peat. Because New York, baby, New York showed up and won 3 World Series in a row.
Yeah.
They had with all Derek Jeter and all the stars.
Yeah, and whenever New York, the Yankees are good, Dodgers are good, baseball usually does well. But that was still after Maguire and Sosa,
No,
so,
it was
no. I guess they did win the World Series against the Braves in '96.
They won 96, they won 98, 99, and 2000.
Right.
Against your Mets. I'd bring that up,
That should get me back for.
You brought up that Duke player the other day. Oh, I hear about it.
Yeah, I'm about to say that should get me back. Yeah. Sticking it to me. But so they did win that one championship, then they lost. And then they came back. So the Florida Marlins won. They beat Cleveland, and then it was the Yankees run. So the three in a row for the Yankees really got things back to normal. And then and I think that them and the Red Sox became like an arms war. They were both stacking up their teams, and I think that did help. But
they had both of those teams had players on it were doing steroids. They did.
The Yankees, when they won in 1996, they were, dead to rights, right? And the Atlanta Braves had them locked. I think they were down 2-0, and or maybe they were down in the second game. Atlanta was up, and Ken Caminiti ended up hitting the homer to save their damn season, and then the Yankees went on a run and won the rest of the damn games. But I think if he did not hit that homer, they would have been done. I think they would have been down 3-0. And
all right. Well, anyway, we got to get off this. Let's move on.
Yeah.
To more steroid talk. We can go on about this forever.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Where's this YouTube? We can talk about anything we want, as long as it's not football.
Yeah.
All right. So Barry Bonds, after he hit the 73 home runs, is now getting a lot of flack from people.
Yeah.
Lots of flack about his head size, about all kinds of stuff. Then he starts getting lawsuits thrown at him. And who ends up going to jail?
Did anybody go to jail?
Yes. His trainer that was putting cream on his thigh.
Right. That's right.
My trainer was putting some sort of cream on my thigh. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Remember that?
That's right.
The trainer never said a word. Never said. I'll guarantee you Barry Bonds offered him a lot of money to go to jail for 6 months.
Listen, man. We all know. We talked about this with the whole situation with Ohtani, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing how when you're the best in the world.
That's right. You're the greatest.
All of a sudden that sticks to you, but everybody around you, everybody associated with
everybody else is going to jail,
right?
But I'm not.
But right. You're gonna have to bite the bullet on this one.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm not. You
Yeah.
know,
My trainer, my interpreter, whoever it was, wasn't
right?
me.
Wasn't me.
Yeah.
You know, and
No.
that's same with Barry Bonds.
Thank
He
you,
was the
very
best
much.
baseball player in the world.
Yeah.
You know, remember when they had the Balco hearings? All
Yeah.
those players came in there and they were, did you use steroids? Nah. Well,
No.
we tested you.
Yeah.
We had,
That was
we
that.
your blood didn't look clear, but we can't prove it. I ain't do it. You
Yeah.
know,
That was that clinic in Miami, wasn't it?
it was like
Yeah, I think it was.
it was like
Yeah, it
they
was like
tested them. They tested them, and all these players, I think that they had some kind of suspicion, or their test didn't seem right because they didn't have an official. This is what we're looking for.
The official testing started in 2004.
Right. So, and but a lot of the guys, man, like I said, Rafael Palmeiro, he's the only one who actually said something. Like, I think they actually busted him, but he still played. And then Andy Pettit is the only one who confessed, right?
He admitted to taking steroids to help him recover from an injury.
Right. Yeah.
So he just threw that. Yeah, I took steroids, but it was just to help me recover from an injury.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That's the company line. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I was just taking some stuff. Oh, really? You just were taking some steroids. You don't know what you were taking. But you were shooting it in your ass. A-Rod.
But
you were going to the bathroom, hiding and shooting it in your ass, but you didn't think anything was wrong with it, right?
But I'll tell you what, during all this, baseball was on the front page of every newspaper back when newspaper was popular. Every sports talk show was talking about it day in and day out. And now all they talk about is football. So all this steroid stuff helped baseball tremendously.
And you know what? And they were aware of it because, before the steroid era, most of the ballparks, the dimensions were large, right?
Yeah.
Like you had to hit the ball hard, get the ball out, right?
Yeah.
And then they intentionally started building, stadiums like Cincinnati and Philadelphia. Ballparks that were really tiny, or like the new Yankee Stadium where all you got to do is hit a pop-up to right field and it goes over the fence. Yeah. So they started building all these places where it's much easier to hit homers. And but back then, at one point, the Yankees, they had a memorial area.
They had Monument Park right behind the wall.
And the ball could go back there, and guys had to run behind these little concrete statue like plaques. So it's like, come on, man. So it's just changed a lot. Like they've basically changed the dimensions for baseball players. And then when they build ballparks, like they built Citi Field, they're like, hey, man, it's too hard to hit a homer in this stadium compared to everybody else. So what do? Move the fence in. Baltimore, same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, whether people want to admit it or not, that era where guys were slugging homers helped the game. Major League Baseball knew it helped the game.
Yeah.
And they are doing their own thing to help the game because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I say it was popular. It was on everything. There were people talking about all this stuff. Who's taking steroids? Speculation every single day. It was great. It was great baseball talk. It was. So that is what brought baseball back from the strike, folks.
Yep.
So anyway, well, that's all I got for today. And baseball is not near as popular as it used to be, but I wish it was. So,
I still love baseball. I watch it almost every day. It's something that's on my TV every day.
Yeah.
But I realize if I talk to people about baseball, they're like, so I realize that it's not like it was a mainstream. At one point, it was the number one sport. Not anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, that's the way it is. But we're talking about it because that's what matters. Anyway.
And
Actually, we've done several shows about baseball. Just
we have.
I'll link to them all, folks. If you want to watch all of our shows about baseball, I'll link to them all. All right, you got anything else for the show today?
I think I'm done, man.
All right, JP, it's good talking to you. So one day we'll just do a show and we'll just reminisce, and it'll last 2.5 hours. We'll just go on every
just
trail
go on and
about
on.
everything.
One day we're just gonna do a live broadcast and just be like, "What are we talking about today?"
What are we going to talk about that? Look, I don't care what those morons on talk radio, the national people.
Yeah,
We're literally better than they are. Because
you give us the production value, and
we've actually watched other sports other than football. So, all right. Well, that's all we got. Remember, folks, like and subscribe to the Sports Economy Show so we can get $1 gazillion, so we can go out and find everybody who did steroids and keep them out of the Hall of Fame. So long, everybody.
So long, everybody.
Y'all come back now. Here